Good morning, good morning. Predicted trades, family. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in for Morning Prep, August 8th. If we have a little review. Let's see. We had a great run up into last week. And then as we arrive at a new zone, a new range, and a huge key level, this 4136, last week we saw how we can kind of consolidate around that. We ran into that zone a few times before finally getting through. Then we tried to turn that zone into support, and we did a pretty good job holding that zone. We had that NFP, non-farm payroll, data that dropped on Friday. And they used that data to dump it right back to basically the middle of the range that we've been in for last week, and to tag pretty much that daily 8. We held all of that on Friday, pretty much wedging, but closing above that range, the daily 8, the daily 100. So not surprising to see that we've guided up over the last night. Over the weekend overnight, we have guided up. We held that zone in futures and our trend line. So we pushed up out of this wedge. So we're through the resistance of last week and coming right up on the high of last week. All in all, ran up to zone, held this new range, trying to push further, holding above this 4136.5. Our daily 8 and our daily 100 are now caught up to each other and crossing over each other. And they're right down at the bottom of our 2-hour squeeze. So as we know, we can run into some squeeze tops, some key levels. We could come back to revisit the bottom of this squeeze and these MAs as they cross each other. But we're on a good trajectory with good momentum. We could easily just hold this 4165 and start pushing through these squeeze tops and key levels that are kind of overlapping. So let's see if we can hold that 4165 at open, start pushing up to this 4183, 4190 for an early day test and tap, where we can then take a break and gain more momentum before getting through them, in a goal to get to this psychological 4200 and 4205. And then beyond that, we've got that third Keltner up, which is edging closer to our next key zone at 4260, 4273. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the economic calendar. For this week, today at 11, we'll have some 3-year inflation expectations from New York Fed. Tomorrow we've got, a little bit of stuff dropping, 6 a.m. and 8:30. Unit labor cost productivity, small business index. But Wednesday is the big data drop for this week with our consumer price index, core CPI, CPI year over year. And then Thursday, as always, our jobless claims. And Friday, some import price index and that University of Michigan sentiment index. So, big one this week is that CPI. We'll see if anything comes out there that can stop this upward momentum that we're in. But yeah, we are remaining strong to the upside. We just broke out of this wedge to the upside. We've done a darn good job of getting above and holding this 41.36. Obviously, we dropped through it on that economic data, but that happens. And like we talked about in prep on Friday, when we saw this drop happening live, I said, don't be surprised, folks. We can tag this key zone, daily 8, and go right back up. So that's what we got. And we are right back up and pushing right near that high. So let's see what we get today. Wouldn't be a surprise for early on pressing up into these numbers, taking a break and coming back, and then gaining momentum to try and keep going. NQ. Oh man, don't start doing this. I was flipping through them with no problem, loading immediately right before I launched prep. I swear it's OBS. So it slows everything down. And a big shout out to Bob and D-Force for, appreciate you guys always showing up early on the prep and immediately slapping that like button. So anyone else that's tuned in and watching prep, we would also appreciate it if you slap that like button. Just helps us out with the algos. We are like algo tamers out here. On NQ. Did not quite make it back to the daily 8 on Friday, but now we can see that daily 8 is stepping up right near Friday's low. And, already pressing higher and trying to get back to last week's high, pre-market. Let's just see. Yeah, NQ leading to the upside right now, per usual. So let's see if it wants to continue to lead. As long as NQ stays above that 13,200, we are still looking really good to the upside. If we start to lose that 3,200, we will likely come down to revisit Friday's lows, this daily 8, and squeeze bottoms. And I know that's kind of just like an arbitrary number to pick, but it was kind of key on Friday. It is a key psych number that once we got up over it, we did a good job holding it until that econ data. So it should provide a good floor. If it gives out, we'll likely go quickly down to that 100 and daily 8. To the upside, we are at that second Keltner. So let's see if that can hold. Now that we're above it pre-market. Basically at 300, they're kind of making it, at least a little easy that it's those 100 increments. So if we can hold 300 at open, we could have a quick press up to this high, these levels up above, and the top of what looks like a squeeze that might already have fired. Yeah, looks like that 2-hour already fired. So let's see if we can continue up to these key levels above and start to settle in them. Now that those squeezes are mostly out of the way, we kind of have clear skies ahead. I'd say also maybe a trend line from the overnight and Friday's lows, just to give us that first warning of breaking trend, right? I'll give you a for instance of what I'm talking about. And basically kind of connect these two. There's your first warning of a break of trend and a potential gap fill. Profit taking to retest our floor. You could also, kind of like I did on ES, do a little more gradual, not so sharp of a trend line, like that. So you got your first trend line for warning of a breakdown, and your second trend line kind of as a target near that 200, where we should catch another bounce if we do break this first trend line. But we're in a nice upward channel. Don't fight the trend until the trend starts to show you that it's changing. Squeaky chair. There we go. Ooh, nope, ready. So, ready did a great job overnight of holding above 1900. And I'd even say on Friday, did a great job of like slapping the daily 8, then holding 1900. And now we press higher, 1900 very big and key, much like our 4136.5 on ES. And now that daily 8 is catching up to 1900. So, for the time being, at least on the ready, and you can say this for each index as you identify the key level. For now, that daily 8 catching up to 1900, as long as we hold above that, we are still bullish. We can pull back to it and consolidate and push again. Once we start to break that 1900 and daily 8, then we can start talking about like reversion to the mean, change in trend, but we're in a nice upward channel, already pushing for new highs. So we might see some small cap rotation. Let's see if we can hold that daily Keltner right there at about 23 to push higher at the goal of 1950 and 1961 with that third Keltner up above. If we start to lose kind of that overnight trend, we're likely coming back to 1910, 1900 for a retest. YM. Currently kind of a lagger, right? I use this percent of change to kind of show me who's trying to lead and who's lagging, right? NQ's up 0.7, YM only 0.4, and the other two indices, about 0.55. So YM lagging a little, but right up at the next key level. That was kind of the high of last week. We did peak a little past it. Get rid of this trend line now that we're back above it. And I'll probably add a little trend line for last week's lows. Ooh, and I know this is going to seem a little strange to some of you folks, but I noticed that right there. If we connect those two, we kind of have a trend that we are back above. So kind of first warning. Yeah, first warning that we could be heading down to retest these moving averages, this little zone that they're making, the daily 8 and the daily 100 on YM. As we saw on a couple of names, they have already crossed. On YM, they are getting ready to cross. So let's see, we do still have a couple of squeezes intact, 2 hour, 4 hour on YM that we need to push through. Let's see if we can stay above this 900. It looks like we're already going to slip it maybe pre-market and open back down a little bit. Let's see if that overnight trend line can hold. And basically this 850 down to 800, that little pre-market low. If we do hit these clouds and take a little profit taking and slight gap fill, see if that 800 can hold, start to send us through 900, psych level of 33,000, and that second Keltner up, right? Second, yes. Which is around, 33.80. If we do reject these clouds, start to take out overnight trend line and overnight low, we have this other trend line to test, but if that starts giving out as well, we can easily come back to these daily MAs and that squeeze bottom and that psych level of 32,500. If we start seeing some profit taking and some things reverting back at least to their daily 8s. All right, on Apple. Still have our 2-hour and 4-hour in place. Definitely something to keep an eye on because that could somewhat establish the range of this week. If we start to slow down or go sideways on some names. Apple's done a good job of leading to the upside. Been relatively strong. Let's see if 165 can give us a floor. We can see we already dipped down to test it pre-market. So let's see if we can hold 165 and keep trucking if we do have a little bit of profit taking in gap fill. Yeah, so you got like a 35% range there between 165 and where we closed. Let's see if that holds. If we do have a little dip, if we can keep trucking. Need to get through last week's high, 167.2. With the overall goal, if we are going to keep pushing this week on Apple, of getting up to our key level 171 to 172. She can easily get there on about, let's see, about a 2-day ATR. So this is the overall target. If Apple can keep pushing, we are almost to that third Keltner, which has kind of aligned with last week's high. It will be stepping up a little bit to 168. So let's see if we can keep pushing, hit that third Keltner, and try to go past it. But once we start getting to that third Keltner, we are a little overbought. So we could see a rejection around this 167.5, 168, and start coming back to 165 for that daily 8, which is about to step up to 163. Notice how that daily 8 is up above that first Keltner. That first Keltner now kind of aligning with our last key level below around 160. That Keltner will step up, so will this daily 15 and 21. Really, if it goes, let's say we continue our rally into CPI, a good day or two push could get us up to this key level, and a good day or two at least staying up will drag these two MAs up to that key level. So that if we did have a reversion to the mean, it could be a blow off top here, up to our zone above, and then a quick little dip to the last key level we held, and we're trying to push off from, as the daily 21 and 15 catch up to that level. So, something to keep in mind for Apple. I like that thesis. AMD and their earnings had that little negative reaction, but held that daily 8. Sometimes that reaction is just to load it up a little cheaper before the run. We had a nice run up above 100, and we stayed above it on Friday, wedging. So AMD could be breaking out of this flag and wedge from last week. If it's going to push higher, it has to push through that 104.5. 30-minute and 1-hour squeeze tops around 104. And that third Keltner likely going to be stepping up near 105.5, 106. If the market starts to roll or AMD itself just starts coming back and losing trend line from Friday's lows, we come down to revisit that 100 and this zone from these key levels, right? Amazon. Amazon had that gap up on earnings, held above it, and then started taking off for some more. It has pushed past that third Keltner a little bit, but came back on Friday. So let's see if we can push through that third Keltner again, which will likely be stepping up to about 143. See if we can get through Friday's high, 144, squeeze tops to try to push for a little higher. 146.8 and 150 would be the next targets above. And I'm recognizing that we are at third Keltner, but the daily 21 and 15 are slowly catching back up to this daily 100. Just verify real quick, yeah. So it could be once these two catch up, which frankly will be today, most likely, or at the latest tomorrow, that these moving averages will be catching up to another. So I could see on a lot of names that we continue to push. These all catch up. We get our CPI numbers. If they want to dump it, we know exactly where they'll dump it to, where all these moving averages are about to cross and stack. BA. BA had a good reaction on earnings. Nice run, settling sideways. Pretty much near that earnings high. You can see that was the floor on Friday, right? So maybe worth marking. Oh no, don't freeze on me, Toss. There we go. Drop a little price level right there. So on BA, I want to see that level continue to hold, 163.88. Right at that squeeze bottom. If that starts to give out, it becomes more likely that we can get a reversion to the mean. You could even mark, give me a drawing. The low from last week as well, to make a little zone. If this zone gives out at this daily 8, BA could have a reversion to the means below, right? Now, the daily 21 will be stepping up, like 157.5, 158. Not going to be trading Boeing, but I do watch it because it holds a lot of weight in the market. If this breaks down, then the market is likely rolling for a reversion to the mean. Cat. And on BA upside, we have to get back to that high that we had, but we're going sideways. Want to just see us continue to go sideways or go higher. If we start to break down, that's when it becomes concern. Cat, not the best reaction on earnings, but just settled back to all of its daily moving averages. Could be building up for a run back up this week to that daily 50 above and that key level, 193.83. Let's see, we'd have to start breaking through the squeeze top and this high from after earnings where it tried to bounce. So if we can get going to the upside and fire these squeezes, first target at 189.5. Next target, that daily 50 and 193, making a zone above. If we reject squeeze tops, then I think we'll just keep settling at these moving averages. But a nice kind of upward trend. And we didn't even make it to that first Keltner down. So they could have just sent it down and loaded up for a run this week. Let's see. Google. Google tapped the daily 8 on Friday. Pretty much arrived at this daily 100. Back to the daily 8. Now coming right back up. So we kind of got our at least daily 8 reversion and bounce. So on Google. Let's see if we can get through that daily 100. Last week's high at 119. Get to 120. If we can start to fire these squeezes to the upside. That second Keltner is around that 120, 125. And that third Keltner up near 125. It does still say there's a daily squeeze intact, but the top isn't showing. It's getting thin, so a good push, and we'll be firing those squeezes to the upside. If we reject this daily 100, likely coming back to squeeze bottom and daily 8. Should that start to give out, we'll revert back to that 113, 114, where the daily 21 is. GS. GS stuck up in this range around 328 to 336. Looks like it's going to be opening near all these highs from a couple of Fridays ago and, the high from last week. So let's see if those highs can hold and keep GS pushing higher. The goal getting out of these squeeze tops and firing up to 340, 342. If we can't hold these highs, likely coming back to test Friday's midday low around 333, and if that gives out back to squeeze bottoms in the daily 8. Oh, JPM had quite a day on Friday. After slowly grinding down. This is why we draw trend lines from highs. You can see we started to break through, came back for a test, and then took off. So it's like every time I don't cover JPM, it does make a move. Let's see now that it's back up near these highs, if it can keep trucking through 116.5 in a bid to get up to this daily 50 up in this daily squeeze top. But we can see that the daily squeeze top and bottom only about a 8-point spread. But we're back above the daily mean. So let's see if it can keep pushing through the high from a couple of Fridays ago. Get back to this daily 50 up above. Basically a goal of like 118. If we reject, probably coming back to these daily moving averages since we blasted through them and didn't quite retest. Meta. And watch if you're listening while I cover Meta and Microsoft is sprint mode. Let's see the sprint mode for the next two names. Microsoft was a little strong on Friday, got up to that daily, Meta was strong on Friday, got up to that daily 50, rejected, came back to moving averages, starting to push off of them pre-market. So let's see if Meta can get some early strength and rotation to push from 168 back through 170 to that daily 50 up in these squeeze tops. If it can push a little further, that next Keltner up, right about 174.5. If it rejects the daily 50 again and squeeze top, likely coming back to moving averages below and squeeze bottom. Microsoft. Sprint, sprint, sprint. Microsoft. Didn't even need to tap its daily 8 on Friday. Held a nice wedge in these squeezes. Now pushing at those squeeze tops and already set a new high from last week. So let's see if Microsoft can remain relatively strong. Start pushing through squeeze tops to get to the next Keltner, the third Keltner up, around 290, 291.5. But with some stacked squeezes, you know, we could get that early push into them, fade back to hold something like this zone from that high before close, that overnight low. So that's making a nice zone of support. Should we run into squeeze tops, take a break to come back and kind of gap fill before heading higher. If that scenario does happen and those give out, we could be coming back to squeeze bottoms to set a higher low from Friday. Alright, through Microsoft and Meta. Now the cool down job, right? Netflix. A little bit uglier of a name compared to others, but similar. Had a push up to a range. Strangely moved up on Thursday when some names struggled on Thursday. Excuse me. Friday tagged that daily 8. Let's see if it can remain strong in this uptrend, get through 230, 232, squeeze tops. Oh, and a bid to get back to that daily 100 up above 237. And that next Keltner at 239. Almost 240. So target to the upside if we can fire these squeezes. If we run into them and reject, likely fading back to test squeeze bottoms in that daily 8. Come on, NVIDIA. On NVIDIA, this daily 8 will be stepping up into these squeeze bottoms. We also have this trend line that we've been doing decent of staying above. So if we do have a little bit of profit taking or a rollback to retest the floor from Friday, looking for NVIDIA to hold this 188, 186 range. That daily 8 will be stepping up in there. You know, if those things start to give out and we start firing squeezes to the downside, we've got the daily 15 and the 21 down below around 160 or 176, 178. If we can hold above 190, which we've been trying to do pre-market, we can keep trucking through last week's at least overnight high. And cash session highs around 192.5. We can get through that. That daily 100 up above, 193.5, 194. And if we can get through those squeeze tops, psych level of 200, where that next Keltner, third Keltner up, is about to land. QQQ. Not many squeezes in place on QQQ, but there is a little 4 hour that's starting to pop up. Looks like the bottom of that 4 hour is near Friday's lows. And the top of that 4 hour past last week's high. If we do have a dip at open, let's see if this 323.5, this overnight kind of high, this high from Friday after close. Let's see if that can hold us if we do have a little dip before going higher, with a goal of getting back to this 325.5 and past it to 327 for this 4 hour squeeze top test. If we reject before getting there or roll over through this 323.5, we'll likely roll back to test that overnight low at 321.5. If that gives out 4 hour squeeze bottom and Friday's lows, which are just above our key zone. The daily 8 is stepping up to that key zone and will likely even step up to the top of it today. Daily 21 is still way below, and daily 100 down there as well. If we start to give out these squeeze bottoms, daily 8 and then daily 100 would be the first targets. Let's just skip to SPX. Come on. So Friday we got that gap down, we went up and filled it. Now we're going to be having a little bit of a gap up. We do still have 2 gaps below as support as this daily 8 keeps stepping up. Daily 100 holding that key level around 41.18, 41.17. So let's see if we get a gap and go. If we do come back to fill the gap, we're looking for 41.45, which would be, we're going to be opening about 25 points up, so it'd be dropping about 25 points to refill the gap. If we can keep trucking, up through last week's high, looking to get to this 41.80, 85, 95, then 4200. So those are some key levels to the upside. We do still have a couple of squeezes in place. We're going to be opening around 41.70. So we might be opening above this high and in those squeeze tops. So let's see if we push quickly to tap some of these levels and then come back for a break, or if we just keep on trucking. SPY. Also with a 2 hour, 4 hour squeeze. Only at about that second Keltner. SPY already setting a new high past last week's. So let's see if it wants to continue on this upward trend from overnight and push up to our key levels above. 417.5, call it, and then 418 and some change. Making a zone above, if we can get through that, 419.5 and 420 psych level. And that third Keltner at probably going to be closer to 421 today. So let's see if we just get a quick push up to these things and then fade back maybe. If we run into resistance and can't get through squeeze tops or to these key levels, if we come back to fill the gap on some things, looking for SPY to hold 414. 414 very key. As long as we're above that, we can keep pushing. If we start to lose 414, we're likely coming back to test this 410, where that daily 8 and daily 100 are straddling. Tesla. And you can see at least why sometimes I do leave big gaps in price key levels, right? We fought up to something key, got tighter, consolidated around it. They approved that stock split and that CPI crap. I'm sorry, the NFP data dropped on Friday. And sometimes, all they need is a reason to just get a quick reset before heading back up. So they approved the stock split. Not surprised to see them take profit after a big run, holding in a key zone before heading higher. Take profit, reload, keep going. So let's see if that's what we get. Looks like we are gapping up above that daily 8, which will likely be around 875. So let's see if that daily 8 can hold that 865, little 10-point range kind of zone. Let's see if that support can hold and start to send us back through 900 and back to 918, 930, these key levels above. If we start to give out 865, Friday's low, we've got 850, 848. If that gives out back to the daily 15 and 21, right back at 830. And our good friend VIX. And VIX, because it makes sense. We're having a gap up on everything. So why not have a gap up on VIX too, right? And it really should be a gap down. VIX is being annoying lately. But let's see if, VIX can get a gap fill and drop, allowing us to pop early to run into squeeze tops and whatnot. We could catch a bounce at this 21 now that we have some squeezes in place in VIX. So we could see VIX drop, quick early, hit that 21, squeeze bottoms, and then catch a bounce to come back. If we are going to hit squeeze tops and roll over, looking for VIX to kind of hold 21.5, maybe dip down to 21.2 or whatever, but basically get through this trend line if we are going to roll over and have some profit taking and fill some gaps in the market. VIX will break through this trend line from the Friday and overnight highs, start heading back up to 22 and to this daily 8 for another test. If we can get continuation to the upside on this gap up in the market, VIX should stay under this trend line, maybe peak above, but ultimately get back under it, go down to test that 21 and squeeze bottoms. And maybe, it says our daily squeeze on VIX is firing to the downside. So let's see if we can get that continuation, get through 21, get down to like 20.5 or 20 for a test on VIX in the next day or two before that CPI data comes out. But that's it, folks. Hopefully this was helpful for everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in chat today. And remember, no beast, no feast.